Hello, how's everyone going? This is probably a difficult time, but you're doing the school run or still at work, but hopefully you can watch the recording tonight or tomorrow, and also we'll email them out. So with the Facebook Lives and also with some of the other pre-recorded videos that Brenda's been doing, we'll be sending them out in emails as well. So you can just keep that for your records and watch back in your own time. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about hormone resistance. And I took some notes because I keep forgetting to say things. I get through and then I realise, I forgot to say that. Just when you get caught up talking, you know what it's like, you forget to say things. So, what was I saying? So today I'm going to focus more on progesterone resistance, and then next week I'm actually going to talk about the thyroid, because it's actually, you kind of do the same thing, but I want to just go through kind of what could be going on. So you may have heard of insulin resistance. So insulin resistance is where the receptors actually get a little bit tired and they're not as receptive to insulin, to blood glucose. And so it can cause lots of problems. And the same happens with other hormones. So essentially what you've got is you've got the hormone, your body produces the hormone, you know, your ovaries produce progesterone. And then what happens is the receptors activate that that hormone at certain levels, and they activate it to do what it does. What has actually happened a lot in today's kind of society, due to stress, due to drugs, due to synthetics, all of that kind of thing, there's a real epidemic of hormone resistance. So today I'm going to talk about progesterone. The reason I'm going to talk about progesterone is because progesterone is one of the most important female sex hormones, and there is an issue with it, you know, and I just want to, there can be a quick fix. A quick fix can be taking Vitex. Some people do HRT. Some people might take the Mirena. But the problem is with these is that if you've got progesterone resistance, it exacerbates your symptoms. You get anxiety or you get insomnia. Hi, Kate. How are you? How's it going? Hope you're well. So I'm going to be talking mainly about progesterone. And then if you've got questions about other hormones, that's fine. But next week, I'm actually going to focus on the thyroid. So we'll go into thyroid resistance, because a lot of people take thyroxine, and after years of taking it, the thyroxine's actually not doing what it needs to be doing. So I've just got my computer down here because I've got some questions from the last one. So I'm just going to be looking at my computer occasionally so that I can see the questions from you guys. So just pop some questions underneath, or I've got questions actually from a previous post the other day, for which I'll get to later. They were for, if I can find it, Rebecca's got a few questions, so I'm just gonna, hi Veronica, how are you? Hi Lisa, nice to see you here, guys. I know it's a funny time. Some people might be doing school pickup, some people might be at work, on your lunch break, at home, hopefully at home, snug in the warm, because it's horrible today. So with progesterone resistance, progesterone deficiency and progesterone resistance can kind of cause the same symptoms, but with progesterone resistance, the symptoms will be magnified. So some of you might have progesterone deficiency, low progesterone, and you're getting restless legs, you're getting water retention, you're getting anxiety, insomnia, you might be getting hair loss, bloating, all of those kind of things, heavy painful periods, swollen breasts, painful breasts. With progesterone resistance, if you take any sort of progesterone stimulating herb, HRT, if you're on the Mirena, if you're on the Implanon, Vitex, Chase Tree, if you take anything like that, it may exacerbate symptoms, but the symptoms are magnified. So you might be like hugely constipated and bloated for 3 days, or you might get super anxious. You know, you might just get really like, what's going on, or really angry or sad. You'll notice that the symptom is magnified. So I encourage you, when you do anything, to actually look out for that, because if you are stressed, then it is likely that you may have the progesterone resistance. I've never suffered from progesterone resistance. I take Vitex now and again. I just take it just as a nice thing to stimulate my pituitary, to keep all of that working nicely, and I still do it from time to time. I do about 3 months of the year actually on Premula. Yeah, you're taking Vitex. And have you found that Veronica, have you found that the Vitex working nicely, or has it exacerbated some symptoms? Be interesting. So the Vitex works really nicely for me. And I would say for about 95% of my clients, Vitex, which from P-Lift or Premula or Chase Tree, whichever form you're taking, works beautifully for them. But that other 5% do get exacerbated symptoms. And then sometimes different Vitex and different Chase Tree work better for other people. I've got one client who took P-Lift from Metagenics, didn't suit her. She took Premula and within days she was calm. So yeah, so if you have the bloated stomach, we're actually going to go into that. So I've got notes just because I forget. So I'm actually going to talk about 5 main points when it comes to progesterone resistance today. So the main causes of progesterone resistance: high cortisol caused by stress, high estrogen because estrogen blocks the progesterone hormone. Don't know what's happening to me. Vitex and Fusion. Yes, so I've had some good reports on that. I don't use that one. I haven't used that one, but I have had people say the Vitex and Fusion are a nice brand. They are a nice brand. They've got some beautiful, wonderful products. So I've got no problem with you using that one. But what you may have to do, and we'll go through this now, Veronica, is low serotonin and low GABA are also what can cause progesterone resistance. And with the bloating, if you've got low serotonin in the gut, you can have lots and lots of gut problems. So that might be something you need to think about, Veronica. So you can implement some of these steps that I'm going to talk about today. Low B6 and low zinc also causes progesterone resistance. And then, as we talked about, too much estrogen, but also too much exposure to progesterone. So if you've had long-term, you've been on pill with progesterone, you've been on Mirena, or you've been on the Implanmon, that can, or HRT with progesterone, that can cause, that overexposure to progesterone can cause you to get a little bit resistant. So it's just to be aware of those symptoms and just see how you go. As I say, it's only a small percentage of the population that I've had, my client population, with progesterone resistance, but also it does affect other hormones. So you can apply this to other hormones, and next week I'll talk about the thyroid. So the first thing we need to do is actually boost serotonin. Serotonin is it's like a calming hormone. It helps you to sleep. It just calms the brain down. It's in the gut, so it helps with any IBS. And it just relieves those. It's what's called an inhibitory, so it's relaxing. Its precursor is tryptophan. So that's why it's good to have starch, good carbs, your quinoa, your buckwheat, your sweet potato, bananas, all of those kind of things to help with the serotonin. Other things you can do are take BCAAs, so that's branched chain amino acids. They're wonderful. Branched chain, sorry, I've got something just in the way here. Branched chain amino acids are beautiful for helping with serotonin. So things like they might have inositol in there, might be glycine in there, other amino acids as well, you can add on top. So amino acids are one of the best things for actually raising these endorphins. Another thing is taurine, but I just want you to be really careful with taurine. Some magnesium mixes, and magnesium is also good for serotonin. Some magnesium mixes do have a little bit of taurine in, so that's okay. Just don't take any other supplements with taurine in. It can be a bit much, and I know there are some kind of like energy drinks that have taurine in, but I would just stick to a really nice magnesium powder. I think Bioceuticals has a little bit of taurine in, which is good. Also theanine. Theanine is really good, and theanine is in green tea and black tea. So it's a good idea to maybe have a cup of tea a day. Coffee doesn't actually have theanine in, and that's why people get a little bit anxious off coffee. Add in the theanine, and that's a calming amino acid. So that's in green tea and black tea. So I would say, you could have maybe 1 cup of tea a day. Supplements that are also good for serotonin. So serotonin, when you've got low serotonin, you'll get the hormone resistance, but you might also get bloating, you might also get depression, really bad period pain. That's why doctors sometimes prescribe antidepressants for really serious periods, because what they're trying to do is they're actually trying to work on the serotonin levels. You also might get cravings. So low serotonin actually gives you that insatiable appetite and cravings for sweets. So it's really important, if you're one of these people that has lots and lots of cravings, just leading up to your period, you maybe want to think about serotonin levels. Are they good? Are they not? So, and you can do things like meditation and that kind of thing. Supplements that people do take for serotonin, and this can help with gut, this can help with bad periods, and also with hormone resistant. There are three kinds of supplements. So some people take St. John's wort. Since John wort works like an SSRI, it's actually hi Kesha, how are you going? Haven't seen you in a while. St. John's wort is a beautiful herb, and actually Floridas do a really nice St. John's wort. So if you suffer from extreme anxiety, any depression, and really bad menstrual cycle leading up that week before, sometimes St. John's wort can work quite nicely. Others might take a little bit of SAMe. SAMe is a sulfur-based tablet. It's very expensive, and it's very indicative for really low depressive moods, especially when there's low serotonin. And one that I don't prescribe, it's very strong, and I probably wouldn't recommend it without you seeing a naturopath, is 5-HTP. It's very calming. So Metagenics do a brand called Proxam, but you actually have like has to be signed and all of that kind of thing. So there are supplements that help with serotonin, but my advice is to make sure you're getting your tryptophan from your bananas, from your non-gluten grains, from your carbohydrates. Make sure you're having carbohydrates with every meal. Make sure you are doing meditation. Meditation is fantastic, and make sure your vitamin D levels are at a good level as well. So next, I was going to talk about GABA. I'm just keeping my notes. So next, I'm just going to talk about GABA. So again, GABA is another inhibitory chemical in the body, endorphin, like serotonin. But low GABA does cause hormone resistance. And again, it causes all sorts of symptoms with your menstrual cycle, with depression, with anxiety. Serotonin and GABA are your inhibitory. So if they're low, you're going to feel crazy. You're going to feel like, whoa, 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 things are going too much. If you're more low, as in sad and no energy and there's no anxiety, then it's unlikely you've got a problem with these two. So with GABA, the best thing to take is glutamine. So I always keep a couple of amino acids that I just pop into my smoothies regularly. And the ones I love to take, I love glutamine. I just pop a heaped teaspoon of glutamine. One, it helps with growth hormone, but I love it because it just helps with those endorphins, and it helps with GABA. It's so calming. It's great for kids that are just running all over the place and they just need a bit of grounding as well. If they're a little bit hyper, especially towards the end of the night, towards the end of the evening, and just need a little bit of calming. These amino acids are fantastic. But I also love 3 other amino acids. We talked about theanine that you can get from tea, but I also love inositol. Inositol, I do keep the powder and I supplement, and I pop that into my smoothie occasionally. Inositol is great actually to raise GABA, but it's also good if you've got PCOS, because when you've got polycystic ovarian syndrome, you actually are more likely to have hormone resistance, but you're also more likely to have these lower endorphin, lower GABA, lower serotonin. Both will stop you from sleeping. If they're low, you won't be able to have very good night's sleep. So that's an indication as well. Beta wave meditation like HoloSync is fantastic for serotonin and fantastic for GABA. It really helps with that. So if you think you might have an issue with these, trying the beta wave meditation, HoloSync I love, or you can just go onto YouTube and just Google beta wave meditation, and that actually helps to kind of bring those chemicals up in the brain. So those are the 2 things to do first. With hormone resistance, you really need to get your serotonin up, and you really need to get your GABA up. And signs that they are low: anxious, insomnia, running around, pain. You can feel pain more. You know how someone bangs themselves and they're like, oh, I didn't feel that. And other times you'll bang yourself and you're like, oh, really hurts, really hurts. That can just be the difference in the levels of your GABA and serotonin. They might be fluctuating. Bloating, serotonin, definitely you'll get a lot of bloating and pain and IBS symptoms as well. And if you've got IBS coupled with low mood, depression and bad periods, my guess is that you might have a little bit of low serotonin as well. With BCAA, look, I would just go for, the brand suddenly, sorry. It's branched chain amino acids, and it's non-flavored, and it's white, and it's Masashi. So Masashi or GNC, any of those. So it's just plain. They don't have anything added. It's BCAA, the branched chain amino acids. And you just add a little bit to your smoothie, or you can just have a little bit of water before bed. Amino acids are really great to take before bed, especially ones that don't have lots of flavour, because they're so calming. They really help the nervous system. So that's what BCAA stands for. These are just things that are good to have in your cupboard, and you don't have to use them every day. Like I said, I have glutamine in my cupboard. I've had inositol. And also I keep NAC as well, and I don't use them all the time, but I add them occasionally. You know, a couple of times a week I might add something different. I mean, I just love glutamine. Not only is it good for gut healing, but it's fantastic for these endorphins. So those are the first two things to focus on, your serotonin and your GABA. Yeah, so they'll be in a bodybuilding powder. Yeah, so just make sure it hasn't got any stimulants added, Veronica, otherwise it'll keep you up all night. It's really good for weight as well, because glutamine actually raises your growth hormone, which actually growth hormone, signs of low growth hormone actually are, sorry to digress, I just want to think of this and kind of just add it in. But if you're a person that's got really larger down the bottom, larger thighs, but particularly thighs, but like, how do I explain this? You know, like, thighs that you just notice are very much out of proportion to the rest of your body. So it's not just they're a bit bigger, or you put your weight on your thighs. They're actually bigger. They're out of proportion to the rest of your body. That can actually be low growth hormone. That is a sign. So that's why it's good to add the glutamine, because glutamine does get the growth hormone up, and it's great for energy, and it's great for muscle gain and fat loss. So that's just added bonus of the glutamine. So yeah, I would start having the glutamine, Veronica, definitely. I would, yeah. Okay, so cortisol. I talk about cortisol all the time, and you probably all pretty sure how to reduce cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone. It's produced in your adrenals, which sit on your kidneys. When your body goes through a fright, goes through a stress, or you're just worrying about something, your body starts to pump out the cortisol. It needs to be at a nice level. We don't want it too high, too low. When it's at a good level, it's anti-inflammatory, it's excitatory, you know, it's great. If it's too high, it starts to cause a lot of inflammation, brain inflammation, inflammation in the body, sore joints, that kind of thing. Memory loss is something. Hi, Rebecca, how are you? I've got your questions here, Rebecca. I'll go through them in a little while. I haven't gone through them yet. So high cortisol, yeah, causes that memory loss, causes you to be hyper, insomnia, all of that kind of thing. So we've already kind of gone through how to manage your cortisol, but definitely managing your cortisol. Cortisol acts as a receptor, as a blocker to receptors. So the meditation, obviously, you want to raise your oxytocin. And you remember with the oxytocin, the best way to raise oxytocin is communicating with your friends, communicating with your girlfriends, making sure you've got a breakfast catch up with a girlfriend a week, hanging around with really positive women, even being on here and chatting, that will get your oxytocin up. Massage is a great way to get your oxytocin up. Meditation, yoga, just going out, orgasm, just going out for runs, all of that kind of thing. So you just focus on those. Just focus on the opposite. Just focus on the opposite, getting the oxytocin up rather than being determined to get the cortisol down. Focus on getting the good things more of the good stuff, because then that's going to balance out the cortisol. You know, and also just obviously the positive thoughts. Goes without saying, and I know it can be hard, but every thought you have, you just turn around into a positive, and that helps with the oxytocin. Sodium and salt is one of the best things for your adrenals and for stress. So Himalayan rock salt, Celtic sea salt. I do about half a teaspoon a day, but if that's too much for you, just go quarter or a pinch. Just do what you can do, and I just do it once a day. If you just put a pinch in, you might want to do it a couple of times a day. Don't have it so you're being sick and you're gagging. Like just have it so it's comfortable to drink. I don't want you not to like it. Keeping your blood sugar steady, obviously, for cortisol. Taking magnesium is wonderful for cortisol. And anything, you know, teas like chamomile, passion flower, withania, romania, anything calming. Let's not overstimulate, let's calm. When you're going through progesterone resistance, it's more calming, leveling. It's not, you don't want to get more hyper. You don't want to be adding too much ginseng in. You don't want to be adding too much caffeine in, too much hyper. You want to, everything needs to be calming for you. And then vitamin C, you know, 600 milligrams a day for 2 weeks really helps with the cortisol levels. But I would focus on the oxytocin. We have talked about oxytocin in the last webinar, but if that's something you're still unsure about, we can go more on oxytocin. We can talk about that more. Chromium is really good. So chromium and cinnamon are both good for insulin resistance. So they help with insulin resistance. So they will actually make the insulin receptors more sensitive, and so your body can balance itself out more. So definitely chromium. You could do 200 micromilligrams a day, or you could take a multi, which has got a little bit of chromium in, that's fine. I mean, I would take it for a short period of time. I wouldn't take it for a long, long period of time. I would just see if you think you've got issues with blood sugar, I would just take it therapeutically for like 6 weeks, something like that. Yeah, Veronica. So boost serotonin, boost GABA, reduce cortisol, and lower estrogen if you suspect estrogen is high. Estrogen dominance can cause a whole lot of problems with your health. Estrogen is inflammatory. Estrogen blocks receptors. Estrogen is a precursor to all sorts of endometrial cancers. So it's a really good idea to just keep your estrogen under control. Know what your 3 estrogens are doing. That's super, super important. You know, things in the environment that affect. So estrogen is detox. I've talked about estrogen before, so I won't go into it in too much detail, but, you know, soy, chemicals in the environment, stress, all those kind of things can cause a buildup of estrogen. In men can get high estrogen because there's a process called aromatase in their body. So if he is low in zinc or selenium, then what happens is his testosterone can get converted to estrogen, or if he's stressed or he's got blood sugar levels. So that can actually happen in men. That can be a bit of an issue. But with women, normally it's to do with phase 2 detoxification in the liver. We've got the 3 estrogens, and they're meant to go from one to the other, excrete, one to the other, excrete, that kind of thing. But if we've got too many pesticides, food additives, alcohol, drugs like paracetamol, metabolic byproducts, yeast in the environment, mold, fungi, that kind of thing, it can inhibit phase 2 detoxification. Sorry. It can, I've got a very dry throat. It can inhibit phase 2 detoxification. So you really need to try and upregulate that phase 2 to help detox the estrogen. So all your sulfur vegetables, like your onion, your garlic, your broccoli, your cabbage, asparagus is a good one. I always forget asparagus is a good one. Sulfur minerals, I mean, SAMI is a sulfur mineral, MSN is a sulfur mineral. Glutathione is amazing, so getting glutathione in your diet or taking a supplement like NAC for a little period of time, like 6-week cleanse, to get the liver, the phase 2 going, that's a very good idea. And then St. Mary's thistle is good to protect the liver. So that was to lower estrogen, sulfur foods. What was I going to add there? So I think you're all pretty adept. I mean, if you're not, then just let me know and we can go through it again. I feel like you understand about estrogen now. If you don't, we can actually do a refresher and we can kind of go through the estrogen issues again, just to help. You know, estrogen comes from too much stress. Estrogen comes from your environment. So chemicals in your environment, pesticide, weed killer, rat killer, perfumes, all of those kind of things, but it just builds up over time. And so working on your liver is super, super important to get rid of this estrogen in the body if it builds up too high. And it's also a good idea to do the saliva test so you actually know the ratio between your 3 estrogens. You can also go one further and do the metabolite test to actually see how your liver is excreting the estrogen, which is a really cool test to do as well. So I'll get to the questions in a minute. I was just going to do point 5 is actually inflammation. The GP won't do the saliva test unless he's an integrative GP. What we can do is if you don't know an integrative GP, I've been working with a lab to just see the easiest way to do it, just so I can get, if any of you want to do any tests, you can actually apply to the lab. So I think we can do that. But if for the time being you're keen, you can just send us an email. If you're keen to do the saliva or the urine metabolite test, you can send an email if you want to breakthrough@breakthroughprogram.com.au, just with your name, date of birth, and address to send the test. The test gets done on day 19. Day 1 of your cycle is day 1. Day 19 is a test. So we can do that for the time being. I'm just trying to work out with them a way that you guys can just go to somebody or you can order a test. The only thing is analysis of it. If there's a lot, obviously, Brenda and myself won't be doing analysis, but we're more than happy for you to put it on the Facebook, like you do with your bloods tests, pop it on the Facebook page, on the Facebook page, and we can say a quick comment about it. Of course, that's not a definitive diagnosis or anything. So that's one thing. Also, we're going to be starting the Skype consult, which is recorded. So just if you're interested, just email us, just so we don't get lost. If you're interested, just send an email. I'm just trying to figure out how that's going to work with the lab. So just send an email to info@breakthroughprogram.com.au, name, date of birth, address. That's it for now. That's fine. The fifth thing with everything and with hormones is inflammation. I mean, we've talked about inflammation. Okay, Rebecca. So here's the thing with Vitex. It depends. You can use it with Marina. You can use it with those things. There's nothing wrong, because what Vitex does is it isn't progesterone. What Vitex does is it stimulates the pituitary to produce progesterone. So if you've got enough progesterone, it will stimulate the pituitary's got a feedback mechanism, so the pituitary won't produce the progesterone, it'll produce something else, TSH, FSH, all of those kind of things. And then the ovaries, the feedback is there, and so they may not produce. It's not bad to use it, but I would only use it if there is hormone resistance going on. Will my progesterone level be low on? No. If there's hormone resistance going on, your progesterone may be very high. So polycystic ovarian syndrome is a good example of progesterone resistance. And when people have polycystic ovarian syndrome, it's very common to see super, super, super high progesterone on the saliva test. But as I mentioned at the beginning, Rebecca, with this resistance, so I'm just talking about progesterone now. I'm going to go into other hormones next week because it's quite a big topic, and it's good to break it up. Otherwise, it'll be too long for you all to watch back. You'll know if you've got progesterone resistance because your symptoms will be more exacerbated. So with low progesterone, or if your body's not using a little bit of the progesterone, you may just have a little bit of bloating or a little bit of weight gain or a little bit of water retention. And it might just mean you just need a little bit of to tweak a few things. If it's really severe progesterone resistance, your symptoms will be magnified. They'll be 10 times that. So the bloating, you'll be constipated, you'll be anxious, there'll be lots of things going on. So normally with a saliva test, progesterone is through the roof. If you're on the Mirena, we would expect your progesterone to be a little bit elevated, but it's not always elevated. It's very interesting. It's not always elevated. And so what it will tell us is what your estrogens definitely are doing in your testosterone, and if the Mirena is working, if the Mirena is kind of doing what it needs to do to your body. So your body's utilizing the progesterone in the Mirena. That's what we'll find out from that test. But it's not always, but it's usually high, very high. So with inflammation, things like polycystic ovarian syndrome, endometriosis, fibroids, any of these painful periods, you know, there's a real inflammatory kind of factor here. Inflammation is huge. Now, we've talked about inflammation a bit, but we actually haven't really gone through the importance of inflammation in terms of, you know, bringing all the inflammation down. And it's very interesting because I had a chat to one of the members a couple of days ago about foods, and she mentioned that she'd gone to her kinesiologist, and her kinesiologist suggested that she didn't have the nightshade group of the family of foods because she's got Hashimoto's. So we're looking at your tomatoes, we're looking at your capsicum, eggplant in particular. If you do have an autoimmune condition like rheumatoid arthritis or Hashimoto's or thyroid autoimmune disease, any of these, you know, or any other autoimmune diseases, psoriasis, that kind of thing, it is advisable to not have the nightshades. So we haven't talked about that in depth in this program, but it is advisable not to have anything that's causing you inflammation. So if you know foods are definitely causing you inflammation, you would know. You wake up the next day, you might feel groggy or you might feel achy, your joints might feel achy. If I eat eggplant, I wake up the next day and I'm a little bit achy. If you know food's causing inflammation, don't have it, because inflammation is actually so bad. Low-grade inflammation, you know, acute inflammation is okay. That's what our body does to get rid of infection, heal, all of that kind of thing. But if you've got chronic low-grade inflammation, it causes all sorts of problems. And weight loss can be really, really hard when you've got inflammation. So I would really look at your diet, look at foods that, even if we said they're okay, like I know we've got an eggplant soup, but if you don't feel right on it, don't eat it. If you really dig deep and know and understand how you feel after eating foods, if you don't feel right, then don't have it. Definitely gluten causes inflammation, sugar causes inflammation, and dairy in some people will cause inflammation. So that's the kind of the general rule. Not everybody, some people can eat all those foods and feel fantastic, but a high percentage of people do need to just be concerned about inflammation. My favourite ways to bring down inflammation, as well as using diet, I always talk about this, and I know Ashley's doing the cold showers. Cold therapy is fantastic for inflammation. It's one of the best things for inflammation. So whether it's just going and jumping in the ocean, whether it's having a cold shower, whether it's having a glass of ice cold water, whether it's doing cryotherapy, whatever it is, cold therapy is really good for inflammation and healing tissue. So it's a great habit to get into. I know Ashley's been doing the cold showers. I've been doing the cold showers, and I'm actually making myself get in the ocean, even on days like today. But I won't lie, I didn't go in this morning. So I'm not quite there yet. But it's good for the inflammation, but it's also good for, it just helps with endorphins, and it just makes me feel good. Inflammation, so we talked about inflammation, diet, foods that can help inflammation. So the best foods to boost your body and to help with inflammation, reduce that inflammation: turmeric, ginger, cloves, sage, pepper, cayenne. Beautiful. And of course, you know my favourite thing in the morning to help with inflammation, it's decocted ginger tea. So ginger root, you just boil it up and you drink that in the morning, a cup of that in the morning, and that's beautiful for inflammation. How do you know if you've got inflammation? So your body might be sore, you might be achy, you might have pain, you might have a heat. There might be a heat to you. You may be feeling like you're feeling stuck in certain parts of your body. Weight issues, depression as well can be caused by inflammation. So there are a few different things that signs that you can look out for. If you think you've got a chronic problem with inflammation and it's your issue, there are blood tests you can do at your GP, CRP, which is a good inflammatory factor. You know, that protein, once that's tested, that gives you a good idea of your inflammatory status in your body. In terms of inflammation is exacerbated by leaky gut. So if you have lots of gut problems, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, pain, lots of wind, and you've got, you know, Hashimoto's or something like that, you possibly might have leaky gut. Other signs of that might be elevated white blood cells, elevated liver enzymes. You may have had an infection, so that can be a sign of leaky gut as well. But leaky gut will cause that whole inflammatory response in your body, so it's really important to just keep that gut nice and under, you know, nice and nutrify it to keep the inflammation under control. I love aloe vera. Fresh aloe vera is just wonderful anti-inflammatory for the gut. It's beautiful. If you have a bit of aloe vera fruit, just put in through some water, you can blend it, and you drink that every day. I mean, that is wonderful and healing for the gut. It's by far one of the best things you can do. And all you need to do is go and buy a plant, and they grow, and so it's quite a cost-effective way as well, natural. We consume raw ginger and lemon and water. I do not boil. Boiling, Veronica, actually gets more of the active ingredients out of the ginger. So they're constituents in the ginger that by a heat, they're oils, and they're what you need to bring out. So a little bit of ginger cut in water is fine, but you're actually getting more therapeutic benefit by boiling it for just a couple of minutes. You'll get more of those oils out. So maybe just do that every morning and see how you go. I mean, that's a great thing. It's just great for the body. Gets the blood moving everywhere. It's fantastic. And then obviously the yin yoga and those kind of things. Any marathon running, training for things is going to cause inflammation. So if any of you are training for anything, any of you are doing any intense exercise, whether it's CrossFit, any of those, you need to look at anti-inflammatory things to do. So whether it's a cold shower after you've done your CrossFit, whether it's the ginger and water each morning, just do some nice things that are going to reduce inflammation, because any really intense stuff that you do can help inflammation long term. It depends how you do it, but you need to make sure that you're ameliorating it short term. So definitely if you're training for something like City to Surf or something like that, do some nice anti-inflammatory stuff. Take some turmeric each day. So just take measures to ameliorate that. Okay, so progesterone resistance, you know if you've got it because you may react negatively to the Marina, HRT, to the Implemon, to Vitex, the Chase Tray, all of those kind of things. Things that will help, your B6 and your zinc, they're your cofactors to help with the hormone resistance and progesterone resistance. If you get intense anxiety, you get constipation, you're getting bloated all the time, very bad, painful periods, sore swollen breasts, weight gain, cellulite, then there's a possibility you've got a problem with progesterone. And if it's progesterone resistance, you want to look at boosting serotonin. You want to look at boosting GABA. You want to look at reducing cortisol and boosting oxytocin. You want to look at reducing your estrogen in your body by controlling the estrogen on externally and helping your liver to cleanse. And you also want to reduce inflammation. So those are kind of the 5 things. If you want us to go into any of those in more detail, we can go into more any of those. If there's something that's not clear in any of those 5 things, we can go into it a little bit more. And we can touch on them again next week. So if next week I'll talk about thyroid resistance. But those are the main areas. If you work, and particularly I encourage you, if you do have an issue with your gut and your hormones and you get very down around your period and depressed and anxious and you get bloated and a lot of pain, I encourage you to just have a look at your serotonin levels and maybe just start implementing, a little bit of inositol or a little bit of glutamine. Start looking at having a tea a day that has the theanine, all those calming amino acids. Maybe taking some amino acids like your BCAAs, just a plain BCAA will help. So just implement a couple of those, have a little bit of a think. This doesn't affect everybody. Not everyone suffers with progesterone resistance, but even if you've got low progesterone, this is going to help you to get the progesterone up. So was that all of the questions? I think, Rebecca, I answered yours. Veronica, I answered yours. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Sal. Thanks for joining us. Great to have you here. If you've got any other questions, I've got a little bit more time before my next client, so you can pop it in below. If you need me to go anything else, I can. I just want to make sure I haven't missed anything. Let me just have a quick look at my notes because just want to make sure I haven't missed anything. We talked about that, the glutamine, beta wave. We talked about that meditation, the holosync to get your GABA up. And for serotonin, actually, that's it. I forgot to talk about grounding. I don't know if any of you go outside on a regular basis, but going outside and actually grounding yourself is actually very good for serotonin because it helps with the melatonin levels, and melatonin is also good to balance out serotonin. If melatonin keeps you up and makes you hyperactive, which it does with some people, that is an indication that you might have an issue with serotonin. So just watch that. So okay, I think that was everything I wanted to talk about today. That's it. So thank you so much for joining me. If you've got any other questions or you want to ask anything else, we can go through it again next week. If there was anything you didn't... Hi Lisa, how are you? Lisa, I actually have a lot of clients that are in their teenage years. Low progesterone is super common because remember, low progesterone is caused a lot by stress. So where's my thing? Okay, so remember that progesterone is here in the hormone synthesis place. Cortisol is below. So cortisol is a progesterone drainer and it will drain your progesterone. So particularly through teenage years, exams, stress, girls get low progesterone, and it can cause acne, it can cause depression, it can cause moodiness, weight gain, all of that kind of thing. So it's a really good time to get it sorted out. Normally GPs might put them on the pill, but if you sort their progesterone out, they turn into angels. It's pretty interesting. And it can have a massive impact on them. So it's a really massive impact. And if they've got any issues with food or eating disorders as well, you want to look at the serotonin and definitely the zinc as well. Zinc is huge for anything to do with food. But I would definitely, if you think she's got the symptoms, now's one of the best times to get it sorted out. Rebecca, before the marina, I had issues with heavy... Oh, okay. So let's have a little bit of a look, Rebecca. So the reason the marina helped you out, Rebecca, is because marina's progesterone, so synthetic progesterone. So it would help a lot of those symptoms. Okay, so Rebecca, I went through the 5 points of how to help the hormone resistance, to get the serotonin up, to get the GABA up, to get cortisol down, oxytocin up, estrogen down, and then also inflammation. So if you can watch again, I would have covered that. Or I can just put a quick comments below. I can do a little comment in the Facebook as well, so you can see exactly what to do. But definitely getting your serotonin and GABA up are going to help you tremendously. Whenever PCOS is involved, there's always a serotonin and GABA issue going on. So I'll put in the notes. I'll put in a separate post and I'll do the notes for you if your internet's bad, and so you can actually see what I'm talking about if your internet's a little bit bad. So I'll do that today, or not today, tomorrow I'll do it. And that will help. So that will help. So at the moment, so you're saying it was really helped. So you're still struggling with the anxiety, the PMS, the fluid retention. Yeah. So what that can mean is you actually then you are having progesterone resistance to the marina. I would start on, if I was you, I would just start on 3 things. I would probably, Rebecca, I would make sure you're doing the meditation, the beta wave meditation and yoga. Do lots of calming things. Don't hype yourself up too much with too much over exercising. Go meditation and yoga. I would take magnesium, and then I would get a nice, I would take inositol. Inositol is one of the best amino acids when you've had PCOS, and that's going to help with the hormone resistance as well, and just help to calm you down. And so maybe inositol, and then you can always throw something in there like a little bit of St. John's wort or something like that, depending on if you've got how bad the anxiety is. If the anxiety is bad, you could add in something like that just to calm you down for a little while. So maybe just see, try a couple of things. I would just try 3 things first, and those would be the meditation, the lifestyle, adding in the inositol, and maybe adding in something like a St. John's wort or a SAMI or something like that. SAMI is amazing. So calming. That's what you need. When you've got anxiety, you need calming. You need to get the serotonin and GABA up. So I would just focus on that. So thanks, everyone. I will put a few comments out tomorrow just to help, because there's a lot there. But if like Rebecca, you think this is an issue, maybe just start on a couple of things to do. But definitely, again, you need to do things that are relaxing, not too over, going too excitatory, because that can actually cause more, it can exacerbate the symptoms. So I would just watch that. But there's definitely a few things you can do, and Rebecca as well, if this is a problem. So I hope that was helpful. If there's any more comments, pop them below and I'll get to them. And I will pop something up tomorrow as well, just to go over maybe what the most important points are. But definitely the serotonin and the GABA, the 2 most important points when it comes to hormone progesterone resistance. Nice to see you all today. Thanks for all your amazing questions. It's always great to chat to you all. And I'll talk to you again soon, and just pop your comments below. Okay, bye-bye.